Our industry, the horse industry, is under attack in a massive way because the government is overreaching way too far. On February 1st, 2025, the USDA has a new regulation going into place that will require every horse show and many other types of events that I'm going to talk about in this video to be registered with the USDA, and the USDA will have the ability to place inspectors, government inspector officials at all of these events. So whether you ride English horses, Western horses, if your kids are in FFA, 4-H, if you enjoy your horses recreationally, you will be impacted by the government overreaching. And in this video, I'm going to take you through the cold, hard proof. A lot of people are not going to be happy with what I have to say. I'm going to start with the cold, hard proof of what the USDA is doing. We're going to dive into why this is such a danger to the industry and what we can do as an industry together to fight back against this. We do not have that much time. February 1st, 2025 is less than 90 days away. And there's three things that we need to do right now. Number one is I want you to watch this video because I'm going to take you through the proof from the federal government's website of exactly what is going on. And the second thing we need to do is we need to get the awareness out there. We need to share this video with as many other horse people that you know, your farriers, your veterinarians, your fellow horse friends, everyone you know. We need to build awareness in our industry of what is going on. And the third thing we need to do is we need to actually take action. And I'm going to go into more in depth what we actually can be doing as an industry to fight back against what the USDA is trying to put in place right now. So let's dive into the cold, hard facts directly from the USDA's website. And right before we click over to that, many of you guys are asking, how could this even be possible? How could our industry even be in this situation? And it started with the 1970 Horse Protection Act, which was a fight against the big lick horseshoeing that used to go on in the Tennessee walking and racking horse community. And straightforward, the horse industry left the Tennessee walking and racking horses out to dry, and that gave the government an in into our industry to start regulating something they know nothing about. But that started to get rid of that particular thing, and the new regulations that go into effect in February 1st, 2025 are tucked within the Horse Protection Act. And of course, they have labeled this as in the best interest of the horses for animal welfare. But when you really look at how this is written and how vaguely it is done and who is the one pushing it, it is a clear extension for the government to get more power, more control, more funding through the government, and so that the animal extremists can push their policies through the government so that ultimately we can lose our entire way of life, because these animal extremists do not want to see us own horses, ride horses, be able to do anything with livestock, horses, anything apart with this lifestyle. They want to see it destroyed. So we're going to start right here directly on the USDA's website. You can see this article was written less than 2 weeks ago by the USDA themselves. October 31st, 2024 is when this was posted. The title is Horse Protection Act. And when we scroll down here and we look at the event manager responsibilities effective February 1st, 2025. It says when the new horse protection final rule becomes effective on February 1st, 2025, event managers of all horse shows, horse exhibitions, horse sales, and horse auctions will need to notify APHIS at least 30 days in advance of their event, either by mail or by emailing. The notification must include whether event management has appointed a horse protection inspector to conduct inspections, is requesting an APHIS VMO to conduct inspections, or if event management is opting for neither. And it says while appointing horse protection inspector or requesting a VMO is not required, event management will be liable for any horse that was shown, exhibited, auctioned, or sold while sore. Now, we'll talk about the definition of soaring and why that in itself is a complete danger to our industry. But let's go a little bit further, because one of the biggest misconceptions is that this is all about walking and racking horses. That used to be the case, but this new regulation changes all of that. It encompasses All horse shows. And at the very top, we already said event managers of all horse shows, horse exhibitions, horse sales, and horse auctions will need to notify. That's exactly how this went. But we can further reinforce this right here because it says, and it separates out Tennessee walking horses and racking horses from all other horses. So let's read, which says, for any event that have Tennessee walking or racking horses, there is an additional information that needs to be submitted to APHIS within 5 days following the conclusion of any horse show, exhibition, sale, or auction. Here we go. For any event which does not include Tennessee walking or racking horses, event management will need to submit information regarding any case where a horse was prohibited by management for being shown, exhibited, sold, or auctioned because it was found to be sore or otherwise in violation of the act or regulations. Now we got to discuss why this is so dangerous for our business because frankly, on the surface, you could read that and be like, oh, well, that doesn't sound too bad. That sounds like, they're trying to make sure that the horses are taken care of. And that would be nice if that was true. But nothing the government has ever regulated has actually ever gotten better. Just look at our food production system and look at how toxic and poisonous so much of the food is that they're the ones that are supposed to be regulating it. It doesn't get better. All it does is it gives them more power, more control, and makes the government more money and the people within it rich. It doesn't actually look out for the best interest of the people that are on the receiving end of it, right? The people that eat the food that the American agriculture system and processed foods get created. It doesn't make people healthier, and it certainly isn't going to make life for our horses better when they step in and try to have more regulation. So this gets extremely, extremely dangerous for the horse industry for two particular reasons. And one is that it is very, very broad reaching. And the second one is because it's so vaguely written. And we're going to talk about a little bit more in detail the vagueness of this and why this is such an issue. But we've already established the broad reaching nature of this new regulation within the USDA because it includes all horse shows. And they go ahead and the USDA defines a horse show as a public display of any horses in competition. And so if we specifically nail down that one particular piece of horse shows, this doesn't mean that it's just the major horse shows around the United States. No, this includes every horse show in the country. As it's legally written in this regulation, we have to understand that's how it's written, is that it means that little local yokel horse show that your local barn puts on for the fun little barn girls that want to come out and ride. Guess what? It includes that horse show. It includes 4-H horse shows, FFA. It includes all the small events up to the largest events, every event across there. Now, that's a massive issue because it becomes a legal matter at that point. A lot of people want to argue with me that they can't enforce it. It's just way beyond scale. Okay. It doesn't change the fact that it's written into the letter of the law, which gives the power to the government legally. That is what we have to stand up against. Right? We can't get caught up on the fact that there's too many horse shows. They don't have an idea of how they're actually going to enforce it. It doesn't change the fact of the matter that it's written into the law. And that's what we have to get changed. So it includes all horse shows, all horse exhibitions, all horse sales, and all horse auctions. Not just in the Tennessee walking and racking horse community, all breeds. Right. And if you don't believe me, you can go ahead and look over at the USEF put out their very own press statement about this. Right. And the USEF said in their own press statement, it says, please note that reporting requirements that go into effect February 1, 2025 will apply to all equestrian competitions organized, sanctioned by, or affiliated with your recognized affiliate or education partners, whether USEF licensed or not. And throughout that press release, the USEF bends over and bows down to this regulation and says, we will comply and we're going to try to make it easier on our members because we need to get along and we have to follow the letter of the law. And this is the worst freaking approach that an organization like USEF, that is massive as it is, could take. They're not looking out for the best interest of their members Because if USDF was actually looking out for the best interests of their members, they'd be pushing back on this. But they're doing what everyone else would expect of a woke organization that USDF is. And they're just going to be like, you know what? Because guess what? USDF wants more power and more control. You can look at exactly how they run that organization. And they're like, you know what? We're just going to hand this over. We're just going to get along with the government and do this. It's the worst thing that any association, breed association, discipline association could possibly be doing, which is going ahead and agreeing that we're going to let the government regulate this because it's all in the best interest. No, every one of us should be pushing back against this because it's one of the worst things that could ever happen to our industry. And I'm going to reinforce that even further because we're going to get into the vagueness of how this is written, right? This stretches the distance of every corner of our industry. They have been able to wrap that up there because they've used very terms of all horse shows, all exhibitions, all horse sales, all auctions. They've been able to encapsulate the industry through very broad reaching terminology. And then they use even more vague terminology to then break down or to be able to encapsulate how this actually impacts the industry. And so when we get into a lot of the biggest arguments that people have is this is only to protect horses from soaring. Okay, well then let's look at the definition of soaring because it's extremely subjective. Okay, and this is what we have to be careful about as people in the industry. We cannot look at this as like, oh, it's going to be okay. We have to look at this as how it could possibly go wrong because the government is trying to get more control. And the ones behind getting this policy in place are animal extremists that do not want us to have this way of life. They do not have good intentions. They don't actually care about the well-being of the horses. They want us to be able to do nothing with horses. So they write this stuff extremely broad-reaching, extremely vague, so that it gives them more control to be able to attack our industry. And we have to be looking at it through that lens of there's ill will being done here. It's not in the good interest of this. So let's look at how the USDA defines soaring. And it says the USDA defines soaring as the practice of intentionally causing pain to a horse to make it move with an exaggerated gait. Okay, I'll say that again. The USDA defines soaring as the practice of intentionally causing pain to a horse to make it move with an exaggerated gait. Now, I'm going to tell you an anecdotal story here from a guy named David Duquette of Western Justice, who was in the room with the head veterinarian of the USDA when they were talking about soaring about 24 months ago. And they were talking about this regulation coming into place. And the head USDA veterinarian said, you know what? I could see how riding a horse could be an act of soaring. And thank the good Lord above, David Duquette stood up and said something and says, absolutely hell no. Riding is not equivalent to soaring. Don't you even try to make that parallel with it, with making this connection. Why? Why was that so dangerous? Because if they actually connect the idea, okay, based on their broad-reaching definition that soaring is the practice of intentionally causing pain to make a horse move with an exaggerated gait, and they say, well, that's technically what riding does. Guess what happens? Riding horses becomes illegal. And we know as horse people that what we do with our horses is not to cause pain at all, but rather to help our horses feel their best, work their best, enjoy their jobs at their very best. But when you look at their definition of soaring and how it's to make an exaggerated gait, right? Now, everything on this is crux at pain. Right? They're trying to eliminate pain. And can we all agree? None of us believe or want or promote or support horses being in pain, being made to do something. As horse people, that goes against every cell in our body, everything that we believe in. We absolutely do not stand for that. And here we are looking at legal verbiage of how this is written. And I hope you guys can grasp how dangerously this is written because of how subjective it is. Who is going to be able to decide, does this actually cause pain, right? Because there is there is a black and white line of, yeah, this horse is in pain or not. And none of us want that horse. If that horse is in pain, absolutely do not show that horse. Do not do whatever with that horse, right? But then there's the subjectivity that goes into, well, I think that is causing that horse pain. And that's that's at the discretion of the horse protection inspectors that are appointed by the USDA to inspect horse shows. You see what's happening here? And to make it move with an exaggerated gait, much of the horse industry is not based on an exaggerated gait, but much of the horse industry, we show our horses based on how they move. Reining, dressage, hunter jumpers, almost nearly every discipline that shows horses is judged based on how those horses move. Okay, we're not trying to make them move in an exaggerated gait. We're trying to make sure that we showcase them at their natural gait. But who is the one deciding between natural and exaggerated? It's subjective. And you see how vaguely this is written. But let's take it a step further because this gets freaking juicy. When we step over here, and we're going to look at the Tennessee Walking Horse Report website, because in here is a particular part of this article, and they are discussing this exact same policy that goes into effect February 1st, 2025, in regards to the Tennessee walking horse community that is already highly subjected to so many rules, so many regulations within that part. But if you look at the section that says banned on action devices and pads, okay, I'll read this out. It says the final rule completely bans the use of action devices and pads by the Tennessee walking horses and racking horses during competition. The USDA acknowledges that action devices and pads do not in themselves cause soaring, but the USDA argues that there is a disproportionately high incidence of soaring in Tennessee walking horses who compete using action devices and pads. In response to concerns raised by the Tennessee Walking Horse Committee of some sort, I don't know what that acronym stands for, that these provisions would devastate the industry. The USDA reiterates its belief that horses currently competing in the performance divisions could be retrained to compete in the flat shod division. You guys see what's happening there? The USDA straight up admits that, hey, this thing that you guys do with your horses does not cause pain, does not cause lameness issues in your horses. But we've drawn this conclusion that there's a parallel between these two situations, but they're not directly correlated. And the USDA acknowledges that themselves do not cause soaring. Those training techniques or those tools do not cause soaring. But because they've made this connection, they've decided they can no longer use those tack tools and equipment in their discipline. You guys see how dangerous of a precedence that is? Because it's a subjective parallel among there. And they've admitted that, hey, this thing doesn't really cause an issue, but because we've connected it to this other issue, we're just going to say you can't use it at all. And then we're even going to tell you, because you can't use that, we think, based on our observations, that you can just go retrain those horses to be able to be shown a completely different way. And how many of us know if a horse has been trained for years and years and years and years and years in a particular way, that just switching that horse into a completely new division is not the most feasible thing that ever did happen. And frankly, most of those horses will be retired. They will not have a job anymore. And now we end up with a whole nother shit show of a situation going on in front of us. But here it is, the government saying, we know that this doesn't cause an issue, but we think you should just retrain them this other way. And that is no different than the USDA and these people in Washington, D.C. with their little pen and paper telling farmers how to go out there and farm and telling ranchers how they should go out there and ranch. And now they are actually right here telling us, hey, guess what? We think you should just go train your horses this other way. And these don't know shit about training horses, caring for horses. And it's all under the guise of it's in the horse's best interests. And it's not. It's about money, power, and control and pushing an evil agenda. None of this gets stopped and none of this goes away if we don't actually do something about it. In the first part of this video, is simply about awareness. We cannot fix problems that we are not aware of. And I hope you share the heck out of this video because our industry needs to be aware. And now we have to take action. We have to come together as horse people, regardless of breed, regardless of discipline. We have to come together and actually take action to make sure that this problem gets resolved. And so many of you guys are asking, what can we actually do about it? What can we do to fight back against this? And the first thing is, if you are in a breed association, if you are in a discipline-based association, to reach out to your executive members, the people that are on the board, and make sure, number one, that they are aware of this. Send them this video if you need to, but they need to be aware of this. And then the second thing you need to do is what is their position? You need to be aware of what is their position. Are they just going to bow down and give in to the government? Or are they actually going to stand up for you and your fellow members of your discipline or breed association? You need to know where they stand. And if they're going to bow down, you need to put their feet to the fire and hold them accountable and say, this is the worst thing that we could do. And you're doing a disservice to all of us and to all the horses and to the industry if you bow down, because they are the leaders of those breed associations and discipline associations. We need to make sure that we hold these people that are in leadership positions accountable for doing what is right and standing up for our industry. Because when all of these breed associations, when these discipline associations come together and push back, there's tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of members between AQHA, USCF, Tennessee Walking Horse Association, all of these breeds, all of these different discipline associations. When all of us come together, it's millions of people that they represent. And we need to make sure that they're representing all of us appropriately by saying, we do not support this and we will not play along with this, because it is straight up tyranny. It is government overreach at its finest. So that is the first thing that you can do. The second thing is that most of these associations are just going to be able to reach out and talk to senators, and they're going to talk to people in power to make sure that we can shift legislation. But there is an organization called Western Justice, and Western Justice represents the Western way of life. But when we say Western way of life, it's recreational riders, trail riders, people that do Western events. It is people within that enjoy horses in a Western lifestyle. And they are the one organization. They're a 501c3 nonprofit on an education basis, and they're a 501c4 legislative fund, which means that they take donations and they go fight against these organizations on a legal battle on a state level and a federal level, because they stand up for ranchers, they stand up for farmers, they stand up for horse people, trainers, everyone within our industry. They are there to fight significant legal battles and to make sure that legislation that is going to negatively impact our industry does not get passed. And they can then also fight things that are already in place to get them reversed, which is what they are doing right now on our behalf in this industry. Essentially, when you look at Western Justice, if you've never heard of them, they are the NRA, like the National Rifle Association. They are the NRA of the Western lifestyle. And all of us should be a member of Western Justice. I'm going to link them down below, because you can go become a member, and that money goes towards the education and legal fund to make sure that they have the funds to hire lawyers and to have people in representative spots to make sure that our industry has a seat at the table when these laws are being created and passed and discussed. Because if we do not support them, we don't have a seat at the table to make sure that this stuff that impacts our industry directly, like this new regulation that's going in place February 1st, actually gets nixed. It gets taken out. And Western Justice is on the front end of the fight to make sure that this doesn't happen. But they can't do what they do without having all of us as members. So I highly recommend you go down, you click the link down in the description, and you go select a membership option that you can afford, that works for you, because that money is going to help keep this way of life for us today, for the next 5 years, 10 years, and down the road. They are the ones on the front line. So that's the second thing that we can do. And the last thing that I'm going to suggest that we can do, and I do not know if this one's going to happen yet, because I just had a conversation with the people from Western Justice today, and they are talking about making a petition that you can sign. All you have to do is click the link and sign it. If they get this petition together, I'm going to link it below in the description where you can go and sign that petition. right? So you can go contact your breed associations, contact your discipline associations. That costs you nothing. Send them an email, make a phone call, let your voice be heard. Say, send them this video, let them know what the heck is going on and figure out where they stand. That costs you nothing but 5 or 10 minutes at the most. Signing this petition doesn't cost you a dime. You can click the link down below, sign that petition to stand up so that we can have a mass representation of the horse people that are against this USDA regulation going into place. And then if you are in a financial position where you can afford to have a $25 membership or you can afford to give more, then go join the Western Justice membership because it's a members funded organization. It's a nonprofit that's fighting on behalf of our industry. And if you can afford to do that, they need our support now more than ever to make sure that this happens, because it is, I've already dated the video, and it's specifically today is November 11th, 2024. President-elect Donald Trump is in the middle of transitioning and putting key players in place, and organizations like Western Justice can be on the forefront to make sure that we have a seat at the table when they are making critical policy decisions to make sure that our industry is looked out for and we don't lose ground. In fact, that we can progress and protect this way of life. And I hope that the weight of this situation and the urgency of this situation hits you straight square in the heart, because we can waste no time. None of us can assume that someone else is going to take care of this. We all have to have our voice heard. You got to sign that petition, reach out to your breed organization, reach out to your discipline association, and make sure that they are aware of them. You can share this video. It costs you nothing. You can comment down below. You can tag people. You can like this video. You can send those emails and have those conversations. You could go to your boarding barn and make sure that people are aware of this. It starts with awareness and it gets taken care of with action. And we have to come together by signing that petition, joining Western Justice, and making sure that we know that all those people that are in leadership positions know this is not in our best interest and we will not stand for it. So go take action, share this video, do what you can. If you can afford to join Western Justice, go do it. I've linked all of their stuff down below, and let's make sure that we keep this industry alive for this year, the 5 years, the 10 years, and decades to come, because guess what? There are people that want to tear it down, and they are pissed off that I'm making this video right now. So let's go ahead, spread it like wildfire, and together we rise.